watching and catching up on some of the Legends of Tomorrow shows has me thinking about Marvel. And what we've got coming up from Marvel, although where we start is Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'm going to say straight out, this is a Sony movie. And of course, Sony is part of the MC universe only through Spider-Man, meaning that Venom and the rest of them aren't, which is really weird. I don't get the licensing of all the villains to Sony and not with the Marvel universe because, you know, Eddie Brock being a part of an Avengers movie could be a lot of fun. And not only that, but getting further into the Spider-Man universe and into the Carnage storyline and everything that goes on with that, you could do some really, really edgy PG-13 almost R with some of that stuff. There could be some really good stuff, but Far From Home's coming out. I'm mildly excited about that. With Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. Black Widow is supposed to be coming out as a movie. It's expected to hit in 2020. The one thing I wonder is if they're going to give Black Widow her own movie. So Scarlett Johansson. First off, Scarlett Johansson kicks ass. And for an actress who in her teen years was praised for her acting talent, and then as a young adult was cast basically as eye candy, and has to a large part been used as eye candy for a lot of her adult career. She's taken on some artsy fartsy roles, but it's still there. It would be nice to see them have faith in Black Widow carrying a whole movie. My guess is Hawkeye gets into it. You might see some other characters from other Marvel in there, because I wonder, are they going to have Wonder Woman level faith in it that we'll just let her carry her own movie, or is somebody else going to get in there? And then there's the Eternals, which is estimated to begin production in the second half of 2019, so I'm not worried about that. Black Panther 2 is a natural because of the amount of money that it's made. Now, here's the thing. I've considered myself to be a comic book nerd for a long time. I don't remember Shang-Chi. I don't have a clue who Shang-Chi is. None. And in getting ready for this video, I see a Shang-Chi movie's being made. Okie dokie. Now, what I wonder is that, see, with Avengers Endgame coming out, and Endgame and Captain Marvel will end Phase 3, I have a feeling a few of the Avengers won't be surviving to the end of Part 4. One of the rumors is that Black Widow herself will be meeting her demise in Part 4 of Avengers, and that Black Widow will actually be a prequel, which is kind of what Captain Marvel is too. With Captain Marvel, I'm very excited for this movie. I have to say I was kind of meh about it. And then Brie Larson was announced as being Captain Marvel, and I was like, holy crap, Brie Larson, who's a fantastic actress in her own right, is going to be a Marvel superhero. Take my money. I will be seeing that in the theater opening weekend, no doubt in my mind, none. I don't care what hockey games are on that weekend. I am not going to miss Captain Marvel in the theater. And then that'll lead into Avengers. So, spoilers. At the end of the latest Avengers movie, you can see that she's being summoned. There you go. That isn't actually a spoiler. I'm not even saying who summoned her or why, but she's being summoned, and it's her logo you see on the screen, and so there's going to be a direct correlation between the Captain Marvel movie and then Avengers 4. Now, one of the other speculations is that she'll die in Avengers 4 because we're waiting to see who's actually going to die. It's sort of like Avengers 3. Okay, so these characters look like they're dead, but they're not really. Who's actually going to die? So that's the sick part of it, is who's actually going to die. But with them getting rid of some characters, and rumor has it that Tony Stark may go, in all honesty, I think it's just Robert Downey Jr. is probably getting to that stage where they're like, can we market him to kids? Probably not as much now as we could 10 years ago, so we'll write Tony out. And whether it's Tony retires to live with his billions of dollars in pepper in a mansion, or they kill him off, whatever ends up happening, Tony would retire. You have to have new characters. So Shang-Chi could come into it. I'm surprised they're not going to give Iron Fist another shot. I know it failed, but if they're looking for like a kung fu character kind of thing, I'm just surprised it's not Iron Fist. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that's an automatic because that's a license to print money. And of course, all of them appeared to meet their demise in Avengers, because of course they did. They're not dead. And that's the weird thing is when you see character, and this is my biggest problem with Infinity War, is this big dramatic ending isn't nearly as dramatic as it's supposed to be, because you know they're not actually dead. You're like, okay, so they're not going to kill off Spider-Man. What next? Doctor Strange 2, I am very much looking forward to. I very, very greatly enjoyed the Doctor Strange movie. I thought it was fantastic. I am very excited that that's going to be coming out. And then they speculate in here a sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp could be in the cards because of the amount of money the sequel's made. And then the speculation that if she doesn't die in Avengers, that Captain Marvel 2 could be a thing. And then this brings up the other topic of superhero fatigue. And you hear it, right? You hear Star Wars fatigue, too. Solo didn't make it very well, very big at the theaters. Just Star Wars fatigue. It's not a thing. The media wants to make a thing out of something that's not a thing. It's not like I wake up someday and I go, you know what? I have hockey fatigue. I don't think I'm going to watch it anymore. No. There are some bad superhero movies. It's not fatigue. It's just they're not great. And there are some Star Wars movies that are not as good as others. Like, I enjoyed Solo. I did. I thought it was a fun little movie. Do I understand why other people hate it? Absolutely. The Last Jedi. Do I understand why people hated that? Sure. Do I agree with them? Absolutely not. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it took a lot of risks, whereas Star Wars movies play it really, really safe. Even the original trilogy, they played it really, really safe. It's kind of paint by numbers, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of fun to do something different. Like, what if Luke and Leia weren't brother and sister? And what if she was torn between Han and Luke until the end of the third movie, and she chose to be with Luke and Han loses it? Like, you know, something like that. Like something dark that happens, you know. Yay, Luke blows up the Death Star, and then the Millennium Falcon comes through and blows away Luke. Nobody would see that coming. That's not paint by numbers. That's the Tarantino ending, I think. Anyways, superhero fatigue I don't buy into. And I see that every now and then. Like, this movie underperformed. It could be superhero fatigue. Or the only example that I think works is this. The last Star Trek movie they had in the theater was Star Trek From Beyond. And it underperformed, okay, compared to what was expected. And so it's kind of left the whole Star Trek universe in limbo, which is too bad, because Star Trek From Beyond, for my money, was way better than Into Darkness. But Into Darkness, the Khan movie, it pissed a lot of people off. You could have saved that movie in a simple way. Benedict Cumberbatch shouldn't have been Khan. He should have been a brand new villain. Something different. So there were two things that I think conspired against Star Trek, the Star Trek Beyond movie. Actually, there may have been three. One, it didn't have a recognizable character. And two, the last time they tried to use a recognizable character, it backfired. So for people who wanted to see a recognizable character, there's nothing there, okay, for like a recognizable villain. It's just this blue guy, and I don't know, where are they fighting? Are those ships like bees? What's going on here? What the hell? And for people who wanted that recognizable character, they also had, well, that Khan movie was stupid. I'm not going to see that. And then I think the other thing that hurt it was the fact that that movie was filmed like a Star Trek episode. It felt like old-fashioned Star Trek, which has been a niche show. It's never been this big, multi-tacular, multi-billion dollar franchise. It's always been a show that a certain small part of the population really enjoyed. And when it comes to Star Trek, you're really marketing it to kind of a limited audience. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's dead in the water right now. I've heard enough about the fourth movie to know that they were going to have Chris Hemsworth in it. They were going to do some kind of a time thing where James Kirk's dad's alive again or whatever. And it sounds like all of that's fallen apart. Tarantino was coming in to direct. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyways, yeah, I don't think fatigue is a thing. And the thing that I find weird is, so we have Aquaman coming out. And I have to admit, the commercials look pretty good. DC, the visuals are good for DC movies. The visuals are spot on. Like Suicide Squad, the visuals were absolutely spot on. The villain sucked, and the motivation of the characters was almost non-existent, and it was kind of lazy. So in the end, Suicide Squad suffered from that. Made a lot of money. I enjoyed it for what it was, but how many times have I watched it? Twice. Once in the theater, once after I bought it because Yvonne hadn't seen it before. I have never looked at my DVD shelf and said, I should watch Suicide Squad today. It goes on too long, and it does have plot holes that if I watched it more than that couple of times, I'll pick it apart and I'll get rid of it. It's tricky that way. And DC movies are like that. And it's weird. They get it right with Batman Begins, they get it right with Dark Knight, and then Dark Knight Rises. And then they have Bane that no one can understand. Let's have Tom Hardy, who is a very well-spoken, very handsome man. Let's cover him in a mask and make him unintelligible. That's a good idea. That's going to make the movie's marketing so much easier. And Bane, you know, Bane is known for breaking Batman's back, but here's the problem: he's not a great villain. Nobody ever looked at Bane back when the comics came out and said, "Oh wow, it's Bane." It was somebody broke Batman's back. It wasn't that it was just that Bane did it. From what I remember with my nerd friends and myself, it was just somebody broke Batman's back. But Bane was kind of a just run-of-the-mill villain as far as we were concerned. Your major villain, that was always going to be Joker. And Riddler was in there, Penguin, Catwoman. These are your big villains. And then Bane was just sort of there. He's sort of big muscle guy with this mask thing, and he breaks him and whatever. It's sort of like Doomsday with Superman. Same thing. And Doomsday, that season of Smallville, was just where the whole show started falling apart big time. But again, I don't see fatigue. Marvel has been pretty smart with their movies. Yes, there are a lot of them. Yes, I do make my wife watch a lot of Marvel movies that sometimes she enjoys and sometimes she doesn't. But I honestly think that the way that the Marvel Universe is run, and the fact now that they have the rights to X-Men and Daredevil, that everything's kind of under the same wing, except for Spider-Man's villains. Why are they making movies about all the villains? Why? I couldn't believe it until I saw it for myself that Sony's going to make movies about the villains. Kraven the Hunter is going to get a movie? I may look back on this a couple years and go, you know what, Shannon, you had very little faith in that Kraven the Hunter movie, but man, the guy in that suit, that really, really works. I don't know how. Here's the thing. How do you have movies about all the Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man? And from the way that it's written, Spider-Man may not be in them. How? I refer back to Suicide Squad. If Batman had been in there a little more than what he was, you might have had a better movie. I just... How do you... Because... anyways, that's my only concern. And it's just, again, it's Sony. I would think that the whole Sony having a partnership for Spider-Man with Marvel, if Sony's smart about it, they'll extend it beyond the 3-movie deal. They'll find a way to keep this Spider-Man in the Marvel universe and make it so that there's some kind of crossover. The problem, of course, is you can't have it in the Marvel universe, you can't have them showing up in Avengers movies and everything else, and be making all of your own standalones that you want to do with all these villains at the same time. Because Tom's one person. He's not two, he's one person. If you wanted two people to be one person, you have to get Sean and Aaron Ashmore. Why hasn't anybody thought of that? Aaron Ashmore's a great actor. Sean Ashmore's pretty darn solid himself. They're twins. Just make it work, Hollywood. Anyways, and they both play superheroes or supervillains. I don't understand why that hasn't been a thing. But anyways, I'd be interested to know what you guys think about this upcoming year and all the Marvel that's going to be coming out, because you've got this fantastic looking Captain Marvel movie coming in March, and then in May, right on the heels of it, you got Avengers, and then you've got Spider-Man Far From Home coming out not too long after that, and then we start getting into Phase 4. Is there going to be fatigue? Is that a thing, or do you guys agree with me that as long as it's a good comic movie, we'll all go and see it? So I'd be interested to know what you guys think. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video, and hey, I'm really looking forward to the Captain Marvel movie. Brie Larson is one of my absolute favorites, and almost every actor in Hollywood, I think, now is in the Marvel Universe. It's kind of an amazing thing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.